This is indeed a day not of our own making. Let us be awakened to it and be glad. And let us count our many blessings. Let us be grateful for the capacity to see, feel, hear, and understand. Let us be grateful for the incredible gift of life. And let us be especially grateful for the ties of love that bind us together, giving dignity, meaning, worth, and joy to all our days. Come, let us worship together.
I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, and just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change is gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. I've been through hard living, I'm afraid to die. Don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming. I know a change is gonna come. Yes, it will. And I go to the movies, try to go downtown. Somebody keep telling me, boy, don't you hang around. It's been a long time coming. I know a change is gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. Then I go to my brother. I say, brother, won't you help me, please? But somehow he winds up knocking me back down on my knees. There've been times that I thought I couldn't carry on. Now I know I've got to go on. It's been a long time coming. I know a change is gonna come. Yes, it will. It's been a long time coming. I know a change is gonna come. Yes, it is.
Good morning. The flaming chalice is the symbol of the Unitarian Universalist tradition, the liberal religious tradition to which this congregation belongs. If you have a chalice at home, I invite you to light it with me at this time. As we kindle this flame, we recommit ourselves to the mission of this congregation, to build a Unitarian Universalist community that transforms lives and empowers people to serve the world. May the light of this flame be welcoming to all who seek a liberal religious home. Our opening hymn this morning is number 389, Gathered Here. I invite you to sing along at home.
Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in
Good morning. I'm Wendy Gates Corbett, a member of this congregation. Whether you're joining us from your smartphone, your laptop, or your TV, and whether you're here somewhere in Raleigh or joining us from elsewhere in North Carolina or elsewhere in the world, we're glad you're here this morning. If you're visiting us for the first time, I offer you a special welcome. This morning, I'd like to especially welcome our friends from the Unitarian Universalist Church of Greensboro, North Carolina, who have joined us this week for worship. Here at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Raleigh, we are intentionally inclusive, liberally religious, and actively serving the common good of our shared world. That means whoever you are, wherever you are on your own religious journey, you are welcome here. That also means that as Unitarian Universalists, we seek wisdom and inspiration from many sources, but also affirm that our own individual experience and conscience is the best authority for our beliefs. That also means that we are committed to making our world more compassionate and just, and hope that you might join us in one of our many efforts to do so. If you're new to us, I invite you to fill out our visitor form at www.uufr.org/visitor form. If you do this, you'll start receiving our weekly newsletter. This morning's service is led by UUFR member Randy Lewis. Reverend Randy Lewis is a passionate community minister, chaplain, entrepreneur, and social justice advocate whose mission is to be the change that he wants to see in the world. He holds an undergraduate degree in organizational leadership, as well as a master's of business administration and a master of divinity. He serves as the managing director of Clergy 211, an organization of inclusive and progressive clergy that provide non-judgmental, rite of passage ceremonies for people of all walks of life. Thank you, Reverend Randy, for being with us today. Everyone, please feel free to join us after our service for a social hour immediately after the service. There are instructions for how to do so on our website. And although we can't greet each other in person today, this morning, at this time, I invite you to greet each other via the chat screen.
I am Tris Chagnon, your Family Ministry Director, and this morning I would like to read you a story called I Am Enough. It is written by Grace Byers with pictures by Keturah Abobo. Like the sun, I am here to shine. Like the voice, I am here to sing. Like the bird, I am here to fly and soar high over everything. Like the trees, I'm here to grow, and like the mountains, here to stand. Like time, I'm here to be, and be everything I can. Like the champ, I'm here to fight. Like the heart, I'm here to love. Like a ladder, I'm here to climb, and like the air, to rise above. Like the wind, here to push. Like a rope, here to pull. Like the rain, I'm here to pour and drip and fall until I'm full. Like the moon, I'm here to dream. Like the student, I'm here to learn. Like the water, here to swell. Like the fire, here to burn. Like the winner, I'm here to win. And if I don't, get up again. I know I sometimes may cry, but even then, I'm here to try. I'm not meant to be like you. You're not meant to be like me. Sometimes we get along, and sometimes we disagree. I know that we don't look the same. Our skin, our eyes, our hair, our frame. But that does not dictate our worth. We both have places here on earth. And in the end, we are right here to live a life of love, not fear. To help each other when it's tough. To say together, I'm enough. This week, I hope you will reflect on your own and talk with your family about what makes you unique, what makes you you, and what are you here to do? What gives you purpose? And to really think about some of the things that make us different. And that's okay. Being unique is one of the best things about being alive. I am here saying to you, you all are enough. You all have worth, and I am missing you and sending you so much love from Northeast Raleigh.
This is the time in our service when we acknowledge some of the joys and sorrows of our community. If you'd like to share an individual joy or sorrow, I invite you to do so now using the chat function on the screen. As we reflect on all of these shared joys and sorrows, as well as all of the joys, sorrows, fears, and hopes of our own lives, let's be together now in a time of stillness and silence, opening ourselves to spirit within us, between us, amidst us, called by many names but known to every human heart, that lead us toward a fuller experience of life. After our time of silence, we'll sing hymn number 95, There is More Love Somewhere. But now, let's be together in stillness and silence.
somewhere there is more peace. Somewhere I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
Proverbs 11:25 tells us, "A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed." Everything we do at UUFR is only possible because of the generous financial support so many of us provide. We try to make being generous as convenient as possible. So I invite you to see the instructions that will appear on your screen during our offertory. It is now time for this morning's offering. Please be generous.
There's a light in the darkness, though the night is black as my skin. There's a light burning bright, showing me the way. But I know where I've been. There's a cry in the distance. It's a voice that comes from deep within. There's a cry asking why I pray, the answer's up ahead. 'Cause I know where I've been. There's a road we've been traveling, lost so many on the way, but the riches will be plenty, worth the price we had to pay. There's a dream in the future. There's a struggle that we have yet to win. And there's a pride in my heart. I know where I'm going. Yes, I do, and I know where I've been. There's a road we must travel. There's a promise that we must make. Oh, but the riches will be plenty. Worth the risk, the chances we take. yet to win. Use that pride in our hearts to lift us up at tomorrow. 'Cause just to sit still would be a sin. Lord knows I know where I've been. Oh yeah, I give thanks to my God, 'cause I know where I've been.
May what you have given in love be received with gratitude. Thank you for your gifts. And now we'll have our responsive reading, Litany of Restoration, number 576. If recognizing the interdependence of all life, we strive to build community, the strength we gather will be our salvation. If you are black and I am white,
it will not matter.
If you are female and I am male,
it will not matter.
If you are older and I am younger,
it will not matter.
If you are progressive and I am conservative,
it will not matter.
If you are straight and I am gay,
it will not matter.
If you are Christian and I am Jewish,
it will not matter.
If we join spirits as brothers and sisters, the pain of our aloneness will be lessened, and that does matter. In this spirit, we build community and move toward restoration.
I went up to the mountain because you asked me to. Up over the clouds to where the sky was blue. I could see all around me, everywhere. I could see all around me, everywhere. Some days I look down, afraid I will fall. Though the sun shines, I see nothing at all. Then I hear your sweet voice, oh, come and then go, telling me softly, you love me so. That peaceful valley just over the mountain, that peaceful valley you come to know. I may never get there ever in this lifetime, but sooner or later it's there I'll go. Sooner or later it's there I'll go.
Thank you, Brother Tim. Powerful words, poignant, beautiful words. Years later, when we look back on the year 2020, we may recall it as a year when it all changed. It was a year when we faced a global pandemic that took hundreds of thousands of lives. We experienced a financial crisis that offset the course of the global economy and changed our very way of being. And it was the summer of racial reckoning, accompanied by instability and protest that amplified and centered black voices in their cry against injustice. All of the death and destruction will undoubtedly leave many of us with deep wounds and scars. Some may even call the year 2020 the Black Year, and the summer of 2020 the Black Summer. It has often been the case that when flashpoints or remarkable and or troubling events happen, there is some sort of outcry and reckoning that take place and prompt us to re-examine our established systems and worldviews. Clear, responsible, and honest examination of said systems can present an opportunity for significant and lasting positive change. When these events are downplayed or ignored, however, and when an honest examination does not take place, the energy surrounding the event or the occurrence does not go away. It eventually finds its way somewhere and can reveal itself in more explosive ways later down the line. The acquittal of Trayvon Martin's murderer, George Zimmerman, and the death of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, were the flashpoints that resulted in the formation of the Black Lives Matter movement as a response to what they call state-sanctioned violence against oppressed populations. Craig Mazin, a writer and creator of the popular HBO series Chernobyl, said the following through one of his characters: "Every lie we tell incurs a debt to the truth. Sooner or later, that debt is paid," end quote. Now, I'd like to add a disclaimer concerning my sermon title today, fully cognizant of the racial construct and use of the word, quote, black itself. It seems that at some point in our history, there were no white or black people. Once these racial constructs were initiated, however, whiteness and blackness both became living institutions where white represented good and black evil, and such is deeply embedded in our cultural and national conscience. We know that good guys were white, bad guys were black. We fear black cats and the dark continent, yet it's okay to tell a white lie, and lily white hands are coveted. It's great to be pure as the driven snow. Angels and brides wear white. Even devil's food cake is chocolate. Angel food's cake is white. And the list goes on and on. Consider the terms black male, black list, black mark, black mass, black plague, black market, black hearted, and now there's even indeed a black summer. It happens to be a new series on Amazon Prime. The show is an apocalyptic view about the collapse of society where hordes of zombies are going about devouring the living, and thus the black summer. So when this black mantra is then attached to people like me, how then does it not become the automatic rejection of all things evil? How can one not expect the negative feelings would be subconsciously processed and affixed to black people? How do black people not internalize the implications themselves? How do black people not come to hate themselves or despise other black people? Besides contending with the stigma, the demeaning, and the degradation of being black, people of color bear the generational trauma of over 400 years as a direct result of racist systems such as slavery and Jim Crow. Dr. John Egbezin Oshodi, a clinical and forensic psychologist, wrote, quote, "These negative ways of symbolizing blackness are in daily use in human circles of all kinds, including by black-skinned persons. Ascribing negative and positive values to black and white has been said to enhance and perpetuate a deep and subconscious racism. It can make African Americans feel bad about their skin and hair color and lead to other prejudices. A well-known study showed that when giving a choice of dolls to play with, both African American girls as well as white girls preferred the white dolls. It would seem this is cultural and not instinctive, end quote. In the same mindset, many white people have deeply rooted conscious and subconscious sentiments, beliefs, and biases about blackness that dictate their action or inaction related to injustice and just about every other thing pertaining to the lives of black people and other people of color. Dean of Music at the University of Louisville, Kentucky, my former fellow church member and colleague in anti-racism work, Dr. Teresa Reed, speaking on the issues of the day, introduces the notion that there is a huge knowledge gap among the people in our culture. In the dominant white culture, the knowledge of blackness, the history, culture, traditions, and values of black people is not necessary for them to know or even learn in order to function, to advance, and to succeed in society. At the same time, the white culture is a system that blacks and other people of color must not only know and navigate daily, but also master in some instances in order to be successful. A 2013 study conducted by the Religion Research Institute showed that 91% of the average white America's closest friends and family members are white and just 1% are black. One of the most glaring statistics from the study showed that when asked to name their closest friends and family members, 75% of white Americans didn't name even one person who was not white. One of the reasons why so few white people actually have black friends is due to the fact that there hasn't been a real need or often no desire to have them. And then there is the question of history. When our country's current Attorney General said that the winners are the ones who get to write the history, he was right. The dominant race has been producing history books that have mostly left out the experiences of black lives and black contributions and have not told the whole truth about its own white history. Let's face it, from its inception, for most of its history, America denied black and brown people their full humanity. Our schools' curricula still offer a heavily whitewashed version of the American history, while courses in our suppressed American histories, such as Native American and African American arts and culture, if they are offered at all, are mainly elective and not required for most degrees. This knowledge gap, however, is not an empty space. It is a space filled with misinformation, selective education, and unintentional, and in some instances, intentional ignorance on the part of the dominant culture. Dr. Reed states that racist structures depend on two things for their survival: the perpetuation of inequity and the perpetuation of misinformation. A racist system works both by denying opportunities to people who look like me and by denying education about me to people who look like you. I'll say that again. A racist system works both by denying opportunities to people who look like me and by denying education about me to people who look like you. The rash of videos on social media portraying racist meltdowns in public places, calling the police, slurs and name calling, and even assaults on black Americans by their white counterparts are current indications that we are still not always welcome and not always safe in perceived quote unquote white spaces. And when we do find ourselves in these spaces, our presence is often questioned, and we must adhere to the prescribed behavior if we are to continue to be allowed in those spaces. As much as I resist viewing these infamous videos, it is sometimes unavoidable. And after seeing them, I'm left with feelings of unresolved trauma and pain. When something inflammatory and unjust is said by a person with a platform that denies my experiences, it can bring about additional trauma. For people of color, it can trigger centuries-old pain. When events happen like what happened to George Floyd, there's a triggering, a reminder, a revisit of the inherited generational trauma of our mothers, fathers, and grandparents, our ancestors who suffered many injustices and hardships because of having a dark complexion, because of who they are and were. Our society conveys to us that we are the quote-unquote others, and being the others, our lives mean less. So when we say Black Lives Matter, we self-affirm our humanity and dignity and demand our inalienable right to justice. For Black people, we have learned how to let things go or to de-emphasize the implications so as to lessen the trigger. But I also understand how PTSD operates, having worked with veterans at the VA. There can be a triggering effect that summons all the suppressed cumulative long-term trauma, which may manifest in angry outbursts, fight or flight responses, or some other behavioral dysfunction. So when I say Black Lives Matter, I declare that my life matters too. And I ask others to show me that I matter by respecting my pain. And with that, acknowledging that my pain, my trauma, my history needs space to be heard and perhaps acted upon. Most of us know that even as the science of history has advanced, and even though new, more factual information has been discovered, what has often remained the same are the narratives that we have been told, and yet there has been little done to reconcile our history, especially as it relates to Black contribution and Black trauma. Hear Black voices who could lend to the story that the commonly accepted narrative left out. You're not required to affirm that my part of the story is true. That's not what I'm asking. Only validate that I have the right to tell my part. The validation indicates that you hear me. Then together we can explore what you have been told about our history in conjunction with all the other evidence from a critical analysis of the information we have come to know. And perhaps we can then be informed by a history that empowers us all. Today might be the reckoning that Black Lives Matter and other movements have been asking for. For those who desire that Confederate statues remain standing, be willing to explore and tell the whole history about these people's lives and why the statues in their honor were erected to begin with. I understand that some people are indeed upset because in their eyes, the history that they have been told is the only history that they know. And it feels strange now to have people wanting to change those narratives, but change we must. Because the history that has been told and what has been told about a race of people still impacts their lives in health and education, employment opportunities, housing, and much more. And there is still much injustice. We have a choice. We can choose blissful ignorance or painful truth. It is our choice. Without the acknowledgement of the truth, healing is not possible. And what this nation now needs most is healing. This summer, this year so far has been one of the most contentious and difficult periods of my lifetime. And I am sure that some of you share my sentiments. With the devastating death statistics from the COVID-19 pandemic, and all of the incidents of racial conflict, the toppling of Confederate statues during the protest of police brutality, the unidentified federal officers on American streets firing tear gas and dragging citizens in unmarked vans, The constant conflict among our national leaders and the mixed messaging and the miscommunication all clearly point to the fact that our nation and humanity in general is in crisis. According to Dr. Reed, there is an observable pattern to how our society has been dealing with racial crises. In the old paradigm, when a flashpoint or a triggering event occurs, it is followed by an outcry, which may be in the form of protest, riots, looting, and so on. Then there come consequences like misunderstanding, pushback, penalties, racial tension, and ongoing conflict. And finally come the retreat and abandon stage, which is what we see today in the social and political polarization and the racial unrest stemming from a lack of understanding that is our national dialogue. The knowledge gap, that is the cultural ignorance and disconnect, remains intact until the next flashpoint event occurs and the cyclical pattern is repeated anew. The problems persist, however, and a new paradigm is desperately needed. This new paradigm would recognize the knowledge and the information gap that is central in conflict. And when a trauma-related flashpoint does occur, then opportunity to risk, teach, and learn arises. There's always risk in our coming together and in being vulnerable. But without risk, there are no rewards. We can join in a collaborative effort to learn about the experiences of the triggered party. And at the same time, we can teach something about our own experience and how the two relate. Once a dialogue is established, a new clarity and understanding emerge, with both or all stakeholders feeling heard and validated. This is where the real empathy, trust, and friendship can begin growing. And we are talking about genuine friendship, not just tolerance, because tolerance sets a very low bar. Humanity at its best has always aspired to be more and to reach higher in its search for goodness and greatness. Dr. Reed reminds us that it is okay for white people to admit not understanding cultural connotations and historical context because it's the fault of the racially divisive system that has been withholding truthful information from people and not the fault of the people seeking this understanding. And I repeat that, it is the fault of the racially divisive system that has been withholding truthful information from people and not the fault of the people seeking this understanding. It's okay to ask questions in a non-judgmental setting or to ask to be directed to existing useful educational resources and opportunities. If we can bridge the knowledge gap, we can begin to heal. There is something beautiful, promising, and even subversive about our coming together because this is how we chip away at the systemic racism and other systems of division and strife that are currently taking place. As a community minister, I am in some way a public servant, much like those who serve for the greater good of society. This includes the police, state and federal public officials, and the highest office in the nation, the presidency. This past Independence Day, I listened to the leader of the free world denigrate and malign over half of the citizens of our nation, calling them evil. They were the others, quote, they and them. This felt wrong to me because he is supposed to be the president of all people. And his words serves only to perpetuate the ideology of good versus evil. The destructive connotations that we are the not to be trusted evil other, connected to blackness and to you and to the countless others who would support and advocate for a beloved community, a multicultural, multi-religious, just society. Recently, I ended a tour of duty at the Durham VA's Affairs Medical Center. the Veterans Affair. Every day when walking into that place, I was greeted by a picture of our president and the VA secretary. In essence, I worked for the president. In my work, I had to be prudent and highly mindful about my theology, my philosophy, or worldview that could potentially affect my care for a diverse and vulnerable population. A few months ago, while working at the VA, I received a call from a gentleman who lived in Virginia. His brother was at the VA where I worked and had just been given a dire news concerning his health. The person on the call was distraught, and he asked if I would visit his ailing brother. I told him that I would. I found out what floor the caller's brother was on, and I went directly to his room. When I arrived, he was getting ready to go for additional testing. When I introduced myself as the chaplain, his wife burst into tears, saying, "I don't want him to die. I don't want him to die." And then she looked at him and she says, "I don't want you to die." He had been told that it was likely that nothing else could be done for him. The veteran looked me directly in my eyes, and he asked if I could get a word through to the man upstairs. I could see his fear and the desperation. I could see the fear and the desperation in his face. In that moment, I felt a sense of overwhelming love. Over the next 3 weeks, I would visit this man and his family in intensive care. We talked about many things pertaining to his life. And even though care providers are discouraged from sharing much of their own lives with patients, it was appropriate on several instances during our time together for me to do so. I got to know this man and his family. I learned that he was a diehard Trump fan and an avid Fox News watcher, and I was there in his room as he talked about his conservative values, Fox News personalities, and his love for Trump. He was the polar opposite of me in every way, politically, religiously, and socially. But during this time, my race, religion, and political perspectives didn't mean all that much to him, nor did his to me. They were not a point of contention or division. We connected around his need and my availability and willingness to put my differences aside in order to care for this man and his family. Although my beliefs about God, prayer, and faith have significantly changed throughout the years, I summon those experiences from my past. And if I've ever prayed in my life, I fervently prayed for this man with everything I had. I tapped into a faith that I have known in years past, in the hopes that the God of our understanding would grant him his desire to live. I wanted it so much for him. It was palpable as I prayed and sought the divine on his behalf. I prayed for his survival. I prayed for miracles. This gentleman would live for another 3 weeks. And after his death, the veteran's family reached out to my chief and requested that I lead the memorial service. I was honored. When I arrived there, I was introduced to the veteran's extended family as their pastor. It was such a term of endearment. I knew exactly what I meant to them in that moment. I stood in this man's home, surrounded by his all-white family and feeling perfectly safe and valued. None of our differences mattered in that moment. I wasn't just a public servant to his family. I wasn't just a chaplain. It felt like I was a close friend. Not only was his family blessed by what I shared of myself, but this experience changed my life. I will never forget the veteran's eyes looking at me, reaching into my heart. I will always recall our conversations and him asking me to be with him through his crisis. I will always recall the kindness his family showed me during his memorial. Our shared humanity is what was most important. And this is what it will take. Getting through our discomfort and distrust, to get to know someone's story, to seek to understand them through it, and then to explore what connects you with them and vice versa. It was Reverend Dr. Thandeka, who coined the popular phrase, love beyond belief. Perhaps love for one another, despite any of our differences or beliefs, is what will save us. It is certain that the pandemic will someday end, and we will overcome the economic crisis that is threatening our very way of life, and the racial unrest and the protesting and the toppling of Confederate statues is all likely to subside. And then we will behold what will be our new normal. What will be left for us to move forward? What will be the direction of this new normal? Will we constructively revisit and re-examine our histories, finding a new meaning to our national aspiration and norms? What is possible? This year could very well become the year of the Black Summer, a permanent black stain connecting us to all the other painful, quote-unquote, black periods in history. This year could be the year when we face the death of our union as we know it, and we fail to rise to meet the moment. Or we could persevere, making this challenging year a turning point for our country and for ourselves. For black people, this could very well be a year of our reclaiming the idea of blackness from being something evil or rotten to being something bold and beautiful, something good, having great value, and worthy to have equal justice under the law. For all of us, this could be the year of recovering our sense of humanity, a moment for self and national reflection to recapture the hope that has been lost, a time of revisiting our histories through positive critical analysis, then renewing our commitment to the ideals of justice and freedom that came with the promise of America to include all people, and then reconciling our differences through our often shared but always connected stories. Finally, this could be the year of our renewal, of our aspiration toward the greatness of our best selves, not for some of us, but for all of us. I encourage this community to continue your support for the noble causes, among which affirming the humanity and value of black lives is one. Each day in this movement, you let me know that my life matters. Many of you go further than just agreeing with these causes. You speak out and actively support them. You do the daily work of educating yourselves and others. You engage with people outside of your circles. You fill the knowledge gap and chip away at the systems of injustice, oppression, and ignorance. You go further by seeking a new and deeper understanding, because we know that with understanding there is empathy. With empathy there is trust. And with trust, change is possible. And so are true and lasting friendships. May it be so. Amen. Let us join our last hymn, We Shall Overcome.
We shall all be free. shall all be free someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall all be free someday. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall live in peace someday.
Beautiful. Please consider joining us for social hour in one of our Zoom rooms immediately after the service. Now hear these words. May the blessing of truth be upon us, the power of love direct and sustain us, and may the peace of this community preserve our going out and our coming in from this time forth until we meet again. May ye be blessed and be a blessing always. Amen.